Good early morning, Cranford. It's about 20 after midnight on September 2nd now. I'm Matt Lubin, the Emergency Management Coordinator for the Township. I'm here with Lieutenant Matt Nazzaro, our Public Information Officer, and we wanted to give you an update and overview of this fairly unprecedented storm that has impacted the Township as well as all of Northeast New Jersey. The impacts right now are still not clear. We're still very much in the early response stage of this incident, but we felt it important to give you an update right now from the front line, so to say. So I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Nazzaro to begin an update.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Again, from the Cranford Police Department, we are mobilized. We are fully at a complement that is ready to respond, has been responding for a number of hours now. Just to talk about the storm itself, what we're seeing from initial estimates, it was supposed to be 4 to 5 inches, which we expected. The storm took a turn for the worst, and we would approximate anywhere between 10 and 12 inches of rain that is now accumulated in the township. What does that mean for us? Well, flash flooding, of course, I'm sure that most of you have seen. Most of what we're seeing in Cranford right now is street flooding. You're seeing the river rise, and much like many years ago when we had Hurricane Irene, this is a little bit of the calm before what could be a little bit more to come with relation to the river itself. So while the storm is subsiding, the water is receding potentially from your streets in the next few hours. Because of that, I don't want anybody to get too comfortable and confident that we are out of the woods. There's many hazards that are unseen by the naked eye. Number one, roadways where there is surface flooding. We're concerned about people trying to drive through. We've had hundreds of calls for service in the past few hours. People that were stranded in their motor vehicles. We've had medical calls that we respond to typically, weather emergencies that are related, of course, to homes that are damaged as a result of the rush of water. But we are also seeing that the river is going to continue to rise overnight. It is going to continue to create hazardous conditions in the township. That is what we're mobilizing and preparing to deal with as the police department, the fire department, EMS, and the Office of Emergency Management, along with the Township Committee. While again, the rain may be subsiding and calming right now, the storm is not over. The residual effects from upstream are going to affect our township. They are currently affecting our township, but we are mobilized. We have a water rescue unit in Cranford Police Department and Fire Department that has already affected water rescues, and they are ready, armed, and able to go out there with the equipment that they need in order to effect those rescues. I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who's going to talk a little bit more about the river overflow and potential thereof, the timing, and of course what the DPW has done as our partners in emergency management. Matt?
Thanks, Matt. So as Lieutenant Nazzaro said, we are still very much in the early stages of this incident. So we had pretty unprecedented flash flooding of streets in town. I would estimate at least 90% of the streets in town were impassable earlier this evening. We had hundreds of water rescues, stranded motorists. That flash flooding threat has now largely subsided. The heaviest rain has moved east of the area. However, we expect the river to continue rising through the overnight, potentially into the morning hours tomorrow. It's very difficult to estimate to what extent the river is going to crest at. This is at least a foot of rain in portions of our area and the upstream areas in the Rahway River Basin. So I stress this is still very early in this storm. There still could be very significant river flooding from this storm, though the flash flooding that we saw earlier has largely passed. I think it's very important to differentiate what we saw earlier in flash flooding with river flooding. So it's very important that you stay home. If you are in your home and you're in the flood zone and you can safely shelter in place, it's best to do that. We have had a lot of people attempt to leave their homes where they were actually safe at home that were stranded. Some of the mitigating actions we have now currently, the pump station has been checked by our DPW personnel. It is operating as intended. The portable pumps have been deployed and are now operating on Balmere Parkway to alleviate pressure in the stormwater system over there. And the township and Mayor Prunty have opened a temporary shelter at the community center for those who are truly stranded and have nowhere else to go. So that's where we're at right now. I think it's important that you have a little bit of background over what the last hours have looked like in the town, so I'll turn it over to you, Matt, to give a briefing on that.
Yeah, I touched a little bit earlier. We've responded to hundreds of calls for service. We have not had any issues with responding to calls for service other than the man-made obstacles when vehicles are in our roadway. The natural events, what they've occurred, we have the water equipment to respond, our Hummers, we have boats, we have all of the equipment necessary if we need to deploy it. We have conducted water rescues for stranded motorists, people sitting on top of their vehicles that maybe thought that they could drive through vehicles. I said it earlier about the obstructions in the roadway. You may not know if a manhole cover is lifted. Some people, after this water stops falling from the sky, want to go out and look and survey damage. Don't. Stay in your homes, as Lieutenant Lubin said. We are at a full complement in the police department, the fire department, and emergency medical services. We are prepared and ready to respond. We are actively responding. The building is full with personnel, and we are out on the roads getting to calls when people call 911. Reserve 911 for emergencies only. If you have a water-related issue in your basement, I understand that. I understand how frustrating that is. We're going to do our absolute best to guide you into the right direction. But again, if it's not a life or safety emergency, please reserve 911 for those circumstances only, and do not take up those phone lines for those who need to get through to us. We anticipate coming to you multiple times as information is coming forward. Right now, we don't have a specific time to come to you. It is the middle of the night. You can bank on in the first thing in the morning, we are going to have an update to our residents. Nixle is an incredible resource. If you are not signed up, if your neighbors aren't signed up, tell them about it. Tell them that we push out information as it becomes available to us. But we can aim that we're going to have a briefing probably tomorrow morning just to get you a little bit more information on where we are and steps going forward. So again, this is Lieutenant Nazzaro, the Cranford Police Department, Lieutenant Matt Lubin, our OEM coordinator from the Cranford Fire Department. On behalf of all of us in the township of Cranford, from police, fire, EMS, and the DPW, we're in this together, and we're going to work through the next steps to ensure that we as a township persevere once again. So thank you for your patience and your cooperation.
Stay safe, everyone.